Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast, Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that has given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a veteran story. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? Make sure you go to the website. That's the lostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. You can go in there and get you a cool shirt. You can get you a cool hat. You can get you a mug. Just click on that merchandise tab. Help support us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Also, a big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project out there doing some amazing things. If you don't know anything about them, go to their website. That's tillvalhallaproject.com. And as always, to all the Marines out there, there's a place for you once you get out. That's right. It's called the Marine Corps League. They're trying to get their numbers up and trying to get people more involved. So please go check them out. You can see them at mcleague.org. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps veteran service organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. All right, we are back. I got my buddy here, Justin Jordan, Air Force retired. So, how you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I don't always get a lot of different services. I try to, but I know more Marines than I do anything else. So
Yeah.
It's good to get somebody else on here.
That's right.
So let's start at the beginning for you. Like,
Sure.
Where'd you grow up? What drew you into military service?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Andrew. I
man.
really appreciate it. I grew up in a small town called Henderson, Kentucky, just outside of Evansville, Indiana, in the tri-state area, which is Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, right there, kind of where they all touch.
Right.
Parents were both teachers. My dad was a principal. My mother was a math teacher. So, pretty unassuming childhood. So I thought, I had great parents and all of that, but there were some other childhood traumas, going on. Didn't just really uncover that until recently, but really was interested in getting out of the small town. I wanted to see the world. I want all the things, right?
Right. Yeah.
The hero's journey, so to speak, right? I wanted to be that guy. So I started looking for military jobs because, college just wasn't for me. I tried it. It wasn't my gig.
Right.
When they told me I didn't have to come to class anymore, I was like, okay, I didn't go to class and try to just pass the final, and it didn't work. And I distinctly remember my father having a conversation with me and saying, college isn't for everyone. You may want to think about a trade. And it was done in a loving way, but I was like, no. So took the ASVAB for the Army, scored really well, and then they just started, they were overzealous, to say the least. And they started bothering my parents at work. And I was like, uh-oh. So one day, it was a Sunday. It was really crazy because we were after church. And we'd always go as a family after church to eat. It was kind of we would go out to eat. Like, there used to be this restaurant called Chi-Chi's, a Mexican restaurant. It was like a fast food sit-down restaurant. It was weird.
Yeah.
And we noticed the recruiters' cars were there, and and I was going to go in. I didn't think they'd be open. I was going to go in and get some pamphlets just to check out the Air Force, and they were open. There was a guy in there, and he talked to me, and he's like, "Yeah, man, we can retake the test and see, and we can put you on delayed enlistment. We got plenty of jobs. I think you'll do fine." I did that and took it, and he's like, "Yeah, you did great. 8 weeks, we'll send you off to basic training." So I had time to tell my steady girlfriend I was leaving for the service. That turned into, "Hey, what are you doing next week?" Boot camp. So that was in 93. I went into the Air Force in February in 93.
Okay.
So back when Jesus was an airman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, it was one of those things that kind of went into an open general field, and I got placed in the career field called services, which is it's a weird career field because it's kind of a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worked in gyms. I was a cook for a lot of years. I worked in food warehousing,
Oh, wow.
hotel, motel management. They do all the kind of like in the Army. I'm not sure the Marine Corps, but MWR, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was stationed in Germany for a couple of years. Did that. Did a lot of bakery stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really, that was cool. I didn't like the stigma, and we all know how military cooks are treated, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. I hated that. I had this big plan, right? I was nobody's cook, right? But
yeah.
But that's where I was at in that point in my career. And then I went to Lackland Air Force Base, which was where basic training is for. I went back there, so I was like, well, this sucks, right? Like I went to Germany. That was awesome. I deployed over to PSAB during the first war, like Kobar Towers. I was there, not when they blew it up, but I was there like right before. And man, I was like, man, this is not my story. Like I was like, well, probably 4 years and I'm out. That's at that time.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I got to Lackland, and they did this base realignment and closure in the mid 90s, where San Antonio had 4 military bases: Fort Sam Houston, Brooks, Lackland, and Kelly. And there may be even one more that I'm missing. But they had all of these, and they were doing base realignment and closure because that's just too many, right? And we were starting to look at joint force stuff at that time. So they did an A76 study, and you couldn't leave the base. TDY, you couldn't go, or you could go TDY, but you couldn't PCS in or out.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you were locked. And I'm like, I'm not locked in San Antonio, Texas, right? I love Texas. I'm now a Texan, but I'm not staying here, right?
Yeah.
The lure of being able to move every 2 or 4 years was very attractive to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a family yet. I just was a single guy. So I applied for a special duty as a combat readiness instructor. And what I did is I was able to teach my career field pre-deployment at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida at the 823rd Red Horse Squadron. Okay. And it was everything from teaching guys how to feed in the field to force bed down to picking up body parts when planes go down. And that's when I found out that my career field had a little piece of it. We did mortuary affairs. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand it, and I asked some of my senior leadership there when I was in Germany before I went on got to Lackland. Why did we do mortuary? And the best answer I ever got was because we own all the refrigerators, airmen. Now get your ass back to work, right? And
that answer does make sense.
Logistically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So. We were doing all these wartime role-playing scenarios. We put, everybody from E2s to 06s through this week-long training, and on Thursday was their exercise day. So I did that for 4 years. Absolutely fell in love with the Gulf Coast. Loved it here because we're here in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We're very close to Tyndall Air Force Base, about 3 hours up the road. And man, I fell in love with the beach life and all of that. But my time was over. Special duties lasted about 4 years, and I had to transition out. So I went back to a base, and I went to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona. One of the best bases I've been to. And when I was there, they're like, "Hey, oh man, you got this combat readiness instructor. You'll be our unit deployment manager and our mortuary in COIC." I'm like, "Cool. What does that mean?" And I quickly found out what it means is that I did. For a lot of years, I was their mortuary NCO in charge at Davis-Monthan, and then to 2 separate deployed locations as well. Yeah. And
now, real quick, just kind of explain what exactly is the mortuary? What'd you call it?
Mortuary NCOIC. So that's a non-commissioned officer in charge.
Yeah. What exactly did you do with that?
So basically, anytime there's a death on base or an active duty death for whatever circumstance. You handle everything from point of death all the way to interment.
Oh, wow.
That is handling the families, assigning the summary courts officers, assigning the FLO, which is the family liaison officers, viewing and handling the remains in a dignified manner, making sure that through the process that you're working in liaison with the family, picking the funeral home. A lot of times they used our contracted funeral home. We had a great relationship. And we would make sure that their remains were handled in the dignified, honorable manner
Right.
that they deserved. But
Mhm.
that it's also meaning that briefing families weekly, daily on what's going on, wives, husbands, grandfathers, mothers, paying for travel. But, back in the back rooms, making sure that everything was done correctly. There were, if I remember correctly, 4 distinct different inspections on the human remains that I had to do. One was just post-mortem right after autopsy.
Mhm.
Sometimes we had to go down and gather personal effects while they were doing the autopsy. That's hard to see if you've never encountered death. I mean, a lot of us have seen people in a casket, but to see it in that raw level form really does something to your psyche.
Yeah.
So making sure that there's no illegal organ harvest, all of that, right?
Right.
Making sure there's no pooling of blood in the wrong places, that the embalming was done correctly. Because with a military person, it could be a death. It's not like, hey, next week we're going to bury Jim. It could be months. It could have to fly him to the Philippines or wherever they're from.
Mm-hmm.
So just overseeing that process. And then sometimes, even though I oversaw it, I had to, the commander is the one that's actually giving these briefings, and I'm kind of his liaison. I do most of the work, but the commander is the one ultimately responsible for the mortuary actions for the Air Force.
Makes sense.
So I worked directly with our commanders, and they would give briefings. I would just make sure they're in the right spot, right uniform, right spot. So here's what we're briefing. And then I would handle all the logistics for the commander.
Right.
And do the inspections a lot of times. They could opt to go, but commanders also have 400 other airmen that they're managing. So I became a very trusted agent in that position where they didn't have to worry about me handling it in a dignified manner. I was the easy button, so to speak.
Right.
At the risk of my own mental health, because after years and years of doing this job on a daily basis, it broke me. I saw one too many bodies. I saw one too many family members. I saw one too many suicides, murders, drownings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I deploy, and it was actually a little bit of a reprieve. As horrible as that sounds, there's an expectation of death downrange.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't have to deal with and I say deal with the families. I'm not meaning to be disrespectful. I didn't have to work with the families. That was the hardest part.
Absolutely.
Carrying that grief and having to be stoic and professional in a time when you're grieving the loss of someone you don't even know is a weird emotion to have to go through on a repetitive basis, because it's human nature to grieve the loss of another human, even if you don't know them. So enter in friends. I lost friends, and they died in front of me, and I had to work their. I got to work their cases and with their families, and that's when kind of the proverbial egg cracked.
Right.
So I knew I needed help. I was struggling, nightmares. My wife said I was screaming in my sleep. I would wake up. I can remember in an entire year I was hoarse.
Wow.
Like I was a football coach after. I loved coaching my son's football team. And I couldn't for an entire year. I couldn't barely talk after work.
Wow.
It was, I would have to whisper it, and I was like, I had to go to the doctor. I don't know why I'm hoarse. She goes, I know why you're hoarse. You're screaming yourself in your sleep.
Wow.
And I go, what? And I had no idea. And so
that's wild.
It is. And it's the brain is, to this day, I can still remember what that felt like and how vulnerable I felt,
right.
and how broken I felt, and how damaged. And then the little voices come in with, you're not worthy. What's wrong with you? Quit being weak.
Yeah.
Right. But it's misguided, I've come to find out. So what I did was, I would go, I knew I needed help, but I didn't know what help looked like. I was staring at Master Sergeant like that was my neck. That was my goal. I was well in line to do it. I was Johnny Air Force. I I did checked all the boxes.
Right.
So
And
I was sitting
a master sergeant in the Air Force is what?
an E7.
E7. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the first of the senior non-commissioned officer
Gotcha.
ranks. He goes master sergeant, senior master sergeant, chief master sergeant.
Got it.
So in the Marine Corps equivalent to, I think, a gunny sergeant.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, I don't want to say it wrong. I don't want to offend any Marines out there. I work with a lot of Marines. And no, thank you. They're the most solid humans on the planet. Definitely don't want to piss a Marine off. So, but anyway, I, with that, I struggled. So I would eat my lunch. I'd grab lunch from like the flight kitchen or something. And I would go sit in the mental health parking lot, trying to muster up the courage to go in and say, hey, I need help. Wow. It took me, if I remember correctly, about a month. And I finally walked in and the airman's like, hey, I got an appointment in 2 weeks. And I'm like, airman, if I don't get to see somebody today, you'll never see me again. I don't know how he took it, but he took it some way because I was ushered right back. And that started my healing journey. So we did some therapies. We did EMDR, which is basically rapid eye movement desensitization, where they use fingers or a light to mimic your REM sleep. Oh, so wow. You have to follow your eyes because the science behind it is that your eyes, when they move at night, they're putting away good memories, bad memories, good memories, but traumatic memories have nowhere to go. So the body that's why they're so top of mind, re-experiencing. Some people call it flashbacks. It's because those neural pathways are wide open and you're not truly getting real rest and REM sleep because you're not putting those traumatic memories away. Right. Where memories are normally housed in the brain. So this mimics that. And while you're re-experiencing or reliving the event, they usually pick one event. I had several, 100. So, but I felt better. And then he's like, hey man, I normally don't tell people avoidance is not a technique I use, but every corner of this base is a trigger for you. So I don't think it's outside the realm that you should start looking for a new assignment. You've been here 6 years and it's time. Yeah. And you're about to make master sergeant. Like I had a line number. So in the Air Force, you get promoted. They promote 2,500, right? And wherever you're at on that, what you scored as long as your time in service. So maybe you're 1,500. So they'll take the 2,500 and go divide it by 12. Right. So your line number is X, and that's when you get promoted. So during that time, you kind of have to walk on eggshells because anything can get you red line. So I've never seen anybody red line, but that's what is the lore, right? You don't want to get red line while you have a line number, right? So they'll take it away. But I think that was hocus pocus looking back, right? Anyway, so I did that. I applied for a special duty at the headquarters, AFIA, which was Air Force Inspection Agency. Okay. So I was an IG.
And where is that located?
That's Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico. Okay. So again, packed up the family. We all moved. My wife was military too during this. She was a personnelist. Okay. And she was going through her own medical traumas through, she had to have a hip replacement at 36. So she's going through her own medical boards and all of this while I'm going through mine, trying to get help. So when I get there, shortly after I got there, they had a mass shooting at the building right outside my office. It wasn't on base because my office, AFIA, was set up to right on the gate, one of the gates. And like the base perimeter fence was literally right outside so we're on the 4th floor. We could look out. So this guy had come in and shot the whole place up. His girlfriend cheated on him or something. So the story goes. So I'm sitting there watching coroner van after coroner van come in right outside my office. Oh, wow. And I'm triggered and I revert. And I'm like, well, what do I do? Oh my God, here I am. But I knew what worked in the past. I went to mental health. And I said, hey, I'm here. This is my story. So they started helping me. About that time, I met a guy named Jim Stanek, who him and his wife, Lindsay, ran an organization they just had started called Paws and Stripes. And service animals really helped him while he's a Walter Reed. He got blown up, Army combat veteran. And he said, I got the cure for your PTSD. And I'm like, what? Hey, there's no cure, right? like this guy's a fruitcake. That's what I thought, right? Jim's a
Yeah.
great. I still talk to Jim. Jim's a great human. He goes, no, just try it, man. Trust me. So I was like, I'm an active duty senior NCO that just got a special duty headquarters assignment. No way that I'm going to get a service dog. You kidding me? So I just kind of floated it by my chief. Like, hey man, I met this dude, and he said, service dog. What do you think? He said, I don't know. Why don't you ask the colonel, man? I don't think it's a bad idea. And keep in mind, nobody had ever done this.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, up to this point.
Yeah. Having a service dog.
Yeah. For like, PTS, especially while on active duty.
Yeah.
Never heard of it since 2010. So my Colonel Rule was his name, was the commander. He's a very great guy. Came in. I mean, we had open door. It wasn't like we were half or at headquarters level, so we had a different relationship than most units. Where he was a full bird colonel, like a wing commander equivalent, and we were all like IG. So we literally could just walk in his office anytime. It was that kind of relationship. So knocked on his door, said, hey, chief said I could talk to you. And I kind of sat down and shared with him what's going on. And he's like, I just read an article on the plane about this. I think this would be wonderful. Let's run it up the chain. So they eventually ran it up to all the way to the chief of staff. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. I don't see why not. Doesn't restrict his duties. He gets the help, and we get to help somebody with post-traumatic stress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, great. This support was foreign to me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, I'm down. So I started training my dog. I went and met with Jim. They wanted to give me a shelter dog. I'm like, I have 3 dogs. So I had a little white, ironically, I had a little white English bulldog, the Marine Corps master. And that was my service dog.
No kidding.
So this master sergeant walking around the Air Force with this little white English bulldog to help with my PTS.
And then now you had to take the dog to get trained?
Yeah. So Paws and Stripes trained it for absolutely free. Took 6 months. I did 3 days a week plus my own training every day. And she graduated. She's top of her class. She was amazing service. What I suffered from a lot was dissociative spells, which one of the most debilitating things for me was I would get in my car on the way home, and the trauma is something. Have you ever been like in your car and like someone said something that pissed you off, and then you had a whole argument with them in your car on the way home?
Yeah.
And then you pull in your driveway and you have no idea how you got there, but you said what you needed to say, right? That's a human condition, and I would do that over traumas that didn't happen. Meaning, I saw a little girl on the sidewalk. What if she stepped off and I didn't in time, and it would go through this cycle.
Oh wow, yeah.
Of this, and oh my God, because I would catastrophize everything in my brain because I'd seen so much trauma, stacked trauma, that everything recognized, and that would transition into something I've seen, to something I've seen, to something I've seen. Now I'm 100 miles from my house, and I have no idea how I got there or where the hell I'm at. You talk about scared, fear, guilt, all of that, all at once. So it's exhausting. So we trained my dog to lick my neck at my exit, and she helped me get home every day.
Wow.
She also was able to help me when I had some anxiety attacks, when I would be in public and something I didn't even know they were coming most of the time. It would just be like she would growl a little bit, and bulldogs don't growl.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's telling me I need to go outside, and I would pet her, and it's scientifically proven. You put your hands on a dog, your stress levels and your cortisol levels go down. So even if it was a placebo effect, it worked for me. Right. So I put my hand on my dog and okay, breathe through it. She's got your back. Boom. Right. And then it helped me have conversations about PTSD with the public.
Right.
Because I'm hearing this first guy ever, airman. I became the poster child for the Air Force, much to my own detriment looking back. But I felt an obligation to share this with whoever came and asking. And of course, they all wanted me to be, hey, Airman Magazine wants to do an article on you.
Right.
And full page covers, fly to San Antonio and do this interview and do this. And I was like, yes. You guys were so supportive because it was so foreign that you had leadership that was so supportive. I wanted to shout it from the mountaintops.
Yeah.
No knock on them. But what I didn't realize is it was setting me up for a failure. So I did all of that. Dallas was helping me. I would travel and do IG inspections, and man, I got to tell you, I had men and women as high as 3 stars stop me, pull me to the side, and say "me too," and say thank you.
Wow.
And that really
Impactful.
gave me a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Because I was always thinking, man, they think I'm weak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with this little dog. I'm a freak show, right? And then a chief would pull me aside and say, dude, what you're doing is saving a lot of lives. And I'm like, me? No, thanks. And I don't see it. We always downplay that. Oh, come on. But
Yeah.
I didn't believe it because I had such a poor negative self-image. But, so just go through it.
Mm-hmm.
She would help me. And then about 2011, I was in a restaurant visiting. They were doing an NFL draft. And the manager came up and said, you can't have your dog in here. Explained her service animal. She's medical alert. This is what she does for me. I didn't have to explain it, but I did. Sorry, I don't care. You can't be here. Yes, I can. She called the cops. The cops said I could stay. They still refused to serve me. So now my dog became my trigger. Is she going to say it? Is she going to say it? Is she going to say it? So I had an emotional relapse, pretty heavy. Really. Overworked her. She got hurt because I overworked her. She got bursitis and I had to retire her. So now what do I do? Well, what I do is I train a new dog because they taught you how to train a new dog. So I taught my dog Sarge. All this time I'm going through a medical board to get removed from the service. Because when I had that emotional relapse, I asked for help again. But this time it meant inpatient treatment. So I went away to inpatient treatment. Flew to a hospital in Salt Lake City, and I got 28 days of inpatient treatment. That triggered a medical board.
Right.
And I was over 18 years in service at that time.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm staring down the barrel of not getting to 20.
Right.
And I was one thing I'm good at is fighting. I'm not talking physically, but I will find every reg, every waiver, everything you can. And plus I worked for the 3-star, the IG. So I'm gonna fight it. So came down, and then Dallas got hurt, so I started training Sarge while I'm going through the medical board process, fighting this. Sarge was my other dog. He was an American Bulldog, great service animal. One day I'm in one of these appointments, and he shakes his head, and blood goes all over the wall. And I'm like, what the, triggered immediately. What's happening? Get up, get out of there. Look at him, and his teeth are all bloody. Like, were you chewing on a chair, dude? What is going on? Immediately took him to the vet. She gets him in surgery. She said he's got a perforation in his, he's got an abscess that's going through to his nasal cavities. That came out of his nose. We need to do surgery to remove the teeth immediately. I'm like, all right, cool. $5,000 later, like, man, I'm tapped out on resources, money, exhausted with time. Mid-surgery, she calls me and sends me a video. She said, this is osteosarcoma. Your dog's top jaw is gone. And he's going to be gravely suffering. We're going to bring him out so you can say your goodbyes.
Wow.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So I ended up, having to euthanize him. We went and got a cheeseburger, and he sat on the lawn. In that moment, he kind of looked at me like, you can do this on your own. You don't need a service dog anymore.
Yeah.
Decided to stop working with that dog at that time. Now, my timeline's a little off because this was after service. So I was going through the medical board. He didn't get sick until right as I was getting out of the service. So,
gotcha. Okay.
But it still happened in procession. As the memories come back, this is 2011. Sometimes they get jumbled in the timeline. But so I go through the medical board and I fight it, and I get 100%, and I'm just 19.5 or something like that years. And I'm like, they didn't have any combat ratings on there. And I wasn't a combat troop. I deployed a lot. I deployed lunch downrange, did mortuary downrange.
Yeah.
But you can't fight 100%. Well, I did. So I wanted some type of acknowledgement that some of this trauma happened in a combat zone. So I went to the board and explained my situation, told them my story, and they awarded me a combat zone exemption, which means that they had to start a portion of the MEB over, which allowed me to get to 20 years. And that was the key. I wanted to get to 20 years. I wanted to serve and retire at 20.
Yeah.
So they medically retired me after 20, so I could receive concurrent receipt retirement. Now, my wife wasn't so lucky. She got to 19.1 and they medically retired her.
Jeez.
So got out of the service. We went from, an E6 and an E7 salary with housing allowance and all the things to disabled veterans, one with a pension and one with a very low pension.
Right.
And VA disabilities. But they haven't kicked in yet. We had big master sergeant and tech sergeant bills.
Yeah.
So we had to struggle, figure it out, how to keep the lights on. I had cockamamie the idea I was going to start a business and this, that, and the other. And I say cockamamie because the one I chose didn't work. But what I learned in treatment was how to write cognitive processing therapy. So right before I got out of the service, I published a book called And Then I Cried, Stories of a Mortuary NCO. I met a guy, and he was Eric Shaw, who was running Tactical 16. He wrote his own book, decided that the publishing game was just too jacked up for military guys to go through, so he started his own. And he published my book. And it's now available at Walmart and, of course, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere you get books. It's been out for a while, and it's opened a lot of doors for me.
Very nice.
Basically, I just told my story. And you kind of follow me and carry the grief with me.
Right.
And then how it ended up getting to a point where, I had an emotional break at a funeral for one of my family members. And that's why it's called And Then I Cried, because you have to be stoic for so many years. And I recently learned, and this was really easy for me to kind of put in perspective. Just recently I learned this. Tears are the solvent for unresolved grief in your heart.
Ooh.
And that made sense to me. I wish I'd have known that back then.
Yeah.
So I would have done a lot more crying, man, and I would have got a lot better a lot sooner. So I started my journey of transition, which was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Trying to find my world in a civilian world that wants to support you, but has no idea how to do it.
Right.
Not to their fault. They just don't. They don't understand us. They don't. 5 VA appointments in a week does not correlate.
Right.
In the civilian world. But you're 100% disabled. Why are you even working? Because I needed to work to stay sane. Right. I wasn't physically broken. I was, and I could work through it. And if I stayed busy, it helped. Right.
Right.
And if I could be productive and have a purpose, it helped. So I did everything from waste management, driving trucks. I bought my own trucking company, lost my entire life savings. And then just at what I call rock bottom, I met, I was an Air Force Wounded Warrior alumni. Because when you get medically retired at a certain rate, they give you a case manager and they help you through all the process of getting VA benefits. And they invited me out to a care event, much like the A Hero event we're here at this week, right? Just a group of warriors that get together and do adaptive sports and art and all of the things. And I was dabbled in art, and my case manager knew that. So he asked me to come out to this exhibit in DC and share my art that I was working on. So I did. They ended up liking it, and they lithographed it and put it on the walls of the Pentagon.
Oh, wow.
And I was really like, wow, they like my art. It's cool, right? And I had my book there, and they were making a big deal about that too. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And they offered me a job. And I'm like, okay. At the time, I didn't know that this was my higher power taking care of me. Like, as my brethren in Save a Warrior would say, this is the whales in the water. And I won't explain what that is, but it's this is God in my understanding of it.
Right.
Putting good things in my life. So I did that, and I was able to train ambassadors. So the Air Force had a program early. She asked me to create a program. The leader, Marshall, the leader there, to help warriors share their story, because I was going around the country sharing my story with book signings and did a lot of interviews and podcasts over the years. But, I knew how to not just get up there and be the angry veteran dropping 1,000 F-bombs, because you lose your story and the message.
Right.
So basically, I took those warriors that were both invisible and visible wounds, and I gave them a public speaking class for a week long. And we did it at different bases across the country. And then I would put them in front of key leadership, like SLOG Senior Leader Orientation Group with all 4-star generals, or the ACC Commanders Course. I'd put one warrior that lost legs or arms or limbs and one warrior with invisible wounds, and they would both share their story. And and the Air Force started slowly transitioning into an invisible wounds. Hey, we get it, right? And helping those with cancer that you can't see, with severe brain hemorrhages. I mean, I've lost brothers and sisters that just had the most horrible diseases, but you walking and talking, you wouldn't know there's anything wrong with them.
Yeah,
and
that's very true.
And they just didn't get the support that my brothers and sisters that lost their legs downrange get. Nothing. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. Don't get that message mixed up. But I wanted to make sure that we both had, because they're both injured, right? So doing that, it was great, but I was an 1.5-hour commute, and then when the contract came to a certain time, it was just time to be over, right?
Right.
And the universe stepped in again. And we had moved to Bandera, Texas. It was a small little town outside of San Antonio. It's a cowboy capital of the world. They still run Longhorn steers up Main Street.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, they have 2 biggest Texas biker rallies in the country, or in Texas, every year right there in Bandera. They do a Wild West shootout every Saturday. It's a pretty neat little town, right? And that's where we decided to lay our roots after retirement. We loved the school. My daughter was going into 8th grade, but my son was just out of high school, so this made sense. About the time that I got out of the Air Force Wounded Warrior, I met this young lady named Lisa Lannon, who had just started. Her and her husband and a gentleman named Tom Spooner and his wife Lori Spooner had started an organization right up the street called Warrior's Heart. And I didn't know what Warrior's Heart was. And we were at a softball game when our daughters were playing together, and we just kind of connected. And man, my ego was out of control. And I was telling her how awesome I was, how cool I was, and this, that, and the other. Looking back, I'm pretty ashamed, embarrassed, but that's where I was at in my life. And she saw right through that. And then she messaged me. She emailed me. She said, I read your book in one night. I'd like you to come out. You're a warrior. And just connect with our team. There was no jobs or anything. It was just connect with our team. So when I got there, I sat with her for an hour, talked, and her husband came in, who's the CEO of Warrior's Heart, Josh. And we talked for a while. And they shot me an email the next day and offered me a job at Warrior's Heart.
Wow. As
an admissions advocate and outreach specialist. Because I was adamant that I wasn't a salesman. I wasn't going to sell anything. Like I said, I had an out of control ego at the time. It's just misplaced grief, but
yeah,
that's how I was handling it. And they brought me into the team. They saw something in me. They saw through the bravado and all of the things. And I started there, and it was a struggle at first, but they believed in me, never quit on me. And then they just said, hey, they kept promoting me. So now I'm the special operations director. I've been there 8 years, and I get to come to organizations like this and share our mission at A Hero, where we're at this weekend, and share our mission of what we're doing. So Warrior's Heart is a treatment center for veterans, law enforcement, and first responders that I believe was divinely placed in my hometown, or where I live in Bandera, Texas, 7 miles from my house. To date, we've treated almost 3,500 warriors for substance use disorder and co-occurring psychological disorders. We have a 600-acre ranch, 543 to be exact, in Texas, and we just opened last year our Virginia facility, which has about 515 acres. And the one thing that was really drew parallels when I went to treatment, when I talked about earlier, when I went to treatment, it wasn't for alcohol, it was for PTS, but it was a program that was co-occurring like ours. But it was inside of a larger healthcare conglomerate in a behavioral health center, which was a hospital. When I got there, I sat in a waiting room for what seemed like 5 or 6 hours before anyone even acknowledged I was there. And keep in mind, I just flew across the country embarrassed with my first sergeant, who's the same rank as me.
Yeah.
Because I needed help. It was embarrassing for her. It was embarrassing for me. Now I'm sitting in a waiting room by myself, crickets going off, like nothing.
Wow.
And I'm like, what did I get myself into? The first thing they did was took my shoestrings, my belts, and cut all my drawstrings out of my shorts. And I'm like, am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? And then they're like, you're going up to the Freedom Care Ward and this, that, and the other. And then that's just how behavioral health has been done for years. It feels very punitive, but it shouldn't, especially in the warrior class. That's where Warrior's Heart is different. We don't take shoestrings. We don't take belts. We don't do any of that. Josh, Lisa, Tom, and Lori have created a program that's non-punitive, that feels like home. And we say welcome home to every warrior.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's an amazing program. It's a 42-day inpatient treatment. We have detox facilities as well. And each warrior gets 2 counselors instead of traditionally 1. So you get a licensed chemical dependency counselor and a licensed professional counselor. And you see them twice a week. So, and then you do mini groups as well as large groups. And we have electives: metal shop, wood shop, canine academy, equine, cooking with chef, art. All of these things give our warriors say-so in their day, because that's critically important when you're going through treatment.
Right.
Because these men and women have had very big jobs. So we're just going to come into treatment. Yes, you have a structured day. We're a training program. We're training confident, sober warriors. At the same time, these men and women have been on scene, in charge their whole lives. So we got to give them some of that back, and know that you can heal through it. Right.
Right.
So, so in the past 8 years, we've been able to we're a community care approved network provider. We take TRICARE. We're in network Blue Cross Blue Shield, and several other commercial insurances. So the key here is we only treat warriors, and our definition of warriors is military, active duty military, law enforcement, and first responders. If you fit that criteria, if you serve your community or country, we serve you in your time of need. And we've had so many warriors go through, and we have a 90% graduation rate of our program, which is
really, really high. I mean, I don't think there's any others that are even close to that.
To my understanding, the industry is around 40 to 60%.
Holy cow.
And then there's also a thing called ACA, which is against clinical advice. Since we're a clinically led program, most folks understand, I've heard, against medical advice. ACA is against clinical advice, meaning I'm leaving the program early, right? Mm-hmm. On average, we less than 7% do that. And some folks are just not ready, and that's okay. We're not a punitive program. We're not holding anybody there against their will. We're going to try our damnedest to keep you there. We're going to throw everything we can at you. And one of the things that works really well for us is we don't just use clinicians to block people leaving early, right? We'll send a housekeeper in to talk to you that connected with you 2 days ago because you're from the same hometown. It doesn't matter. If you're on our staff, you're all trained to manage and de-escalate. I can tell you, I've been there 8 years, and I've never seen a staff member like hit or all the things you hear that happen at rehab. Our warriors are happy to be there. They want to be there. It's a certain level of clientele. And to further emphasize that, I can't name another treatment center in the world that has warriors getting tattoos with their logo on it. We have over 100 warriors that have gotten tattoos. Now, we don't encourage that, but they want to do it. I mean, what does that say about your program? Or where our gear? We sell merchandise, and they want it. They want it. They want to tell everybody, I'm a Warriors Heart alumni. I'm a warrior. And they're proud that they've gone through this healing journey. It's almost a rite of passage. But what we're establishing and we're reestablishing in their lives is purpose. You know, because all of this is just, it's teetered on unresolved grief or unresolved trauma. We really got to get to the root of it and do the work and get back to living, because in my view, we owe it to those men and women we've lost, and we've all lost them. We know the numbers for suicide. That's why this mission started. And I just, my heart can't take it anymore. So we can do everything we can to stop that.
Right.
But we owe it to those that we have lost, not only to suicide, but to war, to anything, to live our very best lives. That means squeezing every ounce of awesome out of every day. Today, we got an opportunity with A Hero to go and do some deep sea fishing. And I couldn't stop grinning, because I got to see, I got to participate. I got to hang out with warriors, a lot of Marines, man. Whew, that's a lot of Marines in one boat. But we were catching fish all day and smiling. And guess what? There wasn't a care in the world. And we were truly living. And if we could think about those men and women that we've lost, if they were sitting next to us, would they want us spending all of this time in grief and sadness and addiction? No. I don't think, the ones I knew wouldn't. They would want us to live our lives. They would want us to go out there, because they can't anymore.
Right.
And they can't hug their kids anymore. But we can. They can't go deep sea fishing with a group of awesome Marines. But we can.
Right.
They can't go and climb Kilimanjaro. But we can. So that's just the message that I want people to know, that it's so many times when we talk about loss, it's sadness, and it's okay to be sad, but it's not okay, in my opinion, to sit idly by and watch your life go by, because you're not honoring the dead that way, and we owe it to those to honor the dead.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So if there's somebody out there that is struggling, right?
Absolutely.
Can they self-report themselves to you
Absolutely.
guys and say, hey, I think this is something for me?
Yeah. So you can go to our website, warriorsheart.com. There are numbers right there. We have advocates 24 hours a day standing by. And one of the unique things, we staff our admissions team with advocates. I think there's like 3 or 4 different law enforcement officers from different branches on there. There's a couple Air Force guys. There's some the spouses of active duty members. We have a full gamut of folks in there. So when you call, it's people that get you, that understand, that are willing to walk it with you, and they become your advocate for life. Because as long as they're working at Warriors Heart, if you need anything going forward, even as an alumni, they're your point of contact. So they're going to work with you through the whole process. They're going to get your finances. We do everything up front. So we're going to get it. You're going to get a medical screening. You're going to get a clinical screening to make sure you meet our level of care, right? And if not, we're not going to say, sorry, we're going to refer you to an organization where you can get stabilized for whatever you're not meeting criteria on, so that you can come back to us.
Right.
A lot of times what that will be is like a higher level of psychosis or something, or suicidal ideation that's out of, that's not controlled or being worked with or stabilized. So we'll need to get that stabilized, because we are open, we have power tools.
Yeah.
So we're going to need you to be in a good frame of mind, ready to accept the training. And the key thing is that you have to be willing. This is the days of driving a black van and scooping somebody up and dropping them off a rehab are over. We're not a punitive program. No, we treat everybody with dignity and respect. But we do expect you to work the program and do the work. So you'll go through that process. It can be relatively quick. You'll handle any financial obligations that are needed for that. But like with TRICARE or VA, it's very, very cheap, very inexpensive typically. And if not, and if there's issues with finance, it's like, hey man, I burnt it all down. That's fine too. Our advocates will work with different nonprofits to help fund you. So they'll get to a point where they're like, hey, again, part of that process is doing the work.
Right.
Like, hey, We're going to need you to this nonprofit. We know them. We're going to call them and advocate on your behalf, but we need you to write a narrative to tell them your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a family member will do that. So we'll facilitate those introductions.
Right. And then same type of thing. If I know somebody that is struggling,
Mm-hmm.
needs some help, I can assist them in getting the help or getting to you.
Absolutely.
And those types of things as well.
Yeah. Lee Stuckey, I've known him for a while. He's the CEO of A Hero, where we're at this weekend at the Warrior Roundup in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Had a great weekend. He sent about 46 referrals to Warrior's Heart over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And he likes to brag that there's only been 2 relapses in those things.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to hear any,
Mm-hmm.
but I attribute it to it's a disease, And what I tell family members that struggle with it, like, wow, he relapsed again. I'm like, well, guess what? This is a disease, and if it was just like cancer. If he had cancer and he was in remission for a year and it came back, you'd tell him to fight it again. So guess what? We're going to fight it again. That's easier for them to swallow because people forget that this is a pervasive disease that kills more than cancer.
Right.
I don't know the actual stats, but I'm on that one. But it kills a lot of folks, and that's to kind of our way of helping stave this suicide epidemic is because most people that commit the final act are under the influence of some type of drug or alcohol. So we need to stabilize that first, and then work on the psychological stuff.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Holy cow. You unpacked a lot.
I've done this a few times. So.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. Is there anything else as far as the organization? You want to talk about anything else with that, or?
Well, I would like to share with the A Hero mission here. Like I said, Lee was kind enough to invite me down to spend a weekend with the guys and just kind of spend some time in camaraderie and let them know that these resources that are here, they're real people behind them, right? Mm-hmm. You're not just going to call in some corporate conglomerate that a lot of people just want your money, right? Yeah. We want your healing, and then he wanted to have a face and say, hey, this is Justin. He works at Warrior's Heart. Yeah. When you call his team, the team that works with him is going to be helping you. And these are real people, because a lot of times we're like, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Because we can be skeptical. We can be.
If anybody can, it's going to be us.
Veterans and Marines way more. So to get in front of a group of Marines and be able to share our program was a blessing. And they're super awesome, receptive to the thing. And one of the things I shared with the team here this weekend is the Marines, in my experience on the active duty side, have led the way in substance use disorder treatment for their Marines. I had a commander fly in once and promote one of his guys while he was in treatment. That's unheard of.
Wow.
Right? So that's just a level commitment. Camp Lejeune loves our Virginia facility, and they will refer to us all the time with the guys that need help.
That's incredible.
It shouldn't have to be a ending of a career. It should just be like, hey, man, you need to get help. Boom. Because, sometimes with alcohol and drugs, the behavioral issues are to a point where there has to be some type of consequence, right? We help you manage that. All right, let's go through it. And a lot of times, guys get back to duty. That's our goal.
Yeah.
So,
man, it's an incredible organization. I'm glad I've met you. I'm glad I came down to this A Hero event, and it's been pretty awesome. So if there's anything I can ever do for you guys, please let me know.
Absolutely.
Well, as I draw down at the end of a podcast, I always have these rapid fire questions that I shoot out.
Sure.
So I'm gonna do it with you.
Okay.
All right. What is your proudest military moment?
My proudest military moment was when I wrote what we call a step promotion package for a young man that was struggling with being promoted from staff sergeant to E6 tech sergeant, and he got it, and now he's a chief master sergeant.
Oh wow!
So knowing that I had a hand in helping him be as successful as he could be was one of my proudest moments.
That's a good answer, man. All right. What is your most embarrassing military moment?
Whew. Man, that's a tough one. Probably. It's tough to say because I mean, I can remember distinctly, like doing a detail, right? Like working a funeral or something, and having grass stains on my blues because I was throwing up from drinking the night before.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I can remember that. So that's not my proudest moment. I don't think anyone saw it, but I knew it. So it was embarrassing.
Right. Wow. Okay. If you could be one military leader for a day, who would that be?
One military leader for a day. I'd probably be Pete Head Chef.
Oh, okay.
Because the opportunity, I don't think he may, I don't know, the opportunity he has to reshape the way the current, as an old retiree, just get off my porch, kind of thing. I think he has a great opportunity to transition us back to the warfighting machine that we once were.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. All right. If you could change one rule in the military, what would it be?
One rule, I would say there's absolutely no waivers for beards. You need to, while you're active duty, you need to shave.
Okay.
That's for us veterans.
What's funny is
two bearded guys talking about how the active duty needs to shave.
A lot of times you hear people say, "Oh no, they need beards in the military. They need to let beards happen in the military."
If I'm being totally honest with you, if they would have allowed it when I was in, I would have totally rocked a beard. So it's just purely out of jealousy.
Okay. Yeah. No. I get that. Yeah. All right. What is one skill or lesson you learned that you still use today?
The art of the expectation briefing. Because in the civilian sector, it just doesn't happen. Expectations are just assumed. But to really set someone down that's going to be in your charge and say, hey, these are my expectations. This is the organization's expectations of you. It's something that's a lost art, and the military does it really well. I can distinctly remember an expectation briefing I had from one of my bosses, and it stuck with me to this day.
Yeah.
He said, man, I'm a friendly dude, but I'm not your friend. And my job is to hold you accountable to the standards, and sometimes that's going to suck. But we're going to have a good time while we're doing it. So just don't mistake my kindness for weakness. That's all I expect from you.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I never crossed them.
Yeah. That's good. All right. This is a tough one. In the zombie apocalypse, what is going to be your weapon of choice? And what anthem is going to be playing?
Nice. Weapon of choice, zombie apocalypse, will be a Gatling gun mounted 90-foot Viking boat.
Yeah. Okay.
With 6 bedrooms, trash compactor.
Nice.
So I can live in Air Force standards, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. You got to have.
But also, if they do decide to learn how to swim, I can take care of business.
Yeah.
And the anthem that we'd be playing would be probably some Creedence Clearwater.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What animal best describes your time in service?
What animal? Man. That's a tough one. Maybe a koala.
Okay.
Just kind of unassuming, but it's still a bear.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, probably could eat your face off if it wanted to. But doesn't. Because it's just sitting and chewing bamboo.
Yeah. All right. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Which branch of the military has the sexiest uniforms?
That was the Marine Corps,
Okay.
for sure,
All right.
without question.
All right. What branch of the service is the best?
Well, I mean, the Air Force, of course.
Of course.
Of course. Everybody likes to make fun of us, but at the same time, when you need an 810, we're a pretty good friend to have. You know
That
what
is
I'm
a true
saying?
statement. Yeah.
When you hear that brrr, it's like, okay, freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is military for freedom.
And I can tell you that we're the only branch that every other branch, I don't say idolizes, but has. So there's an aviation section in every branch of service.
True. Yeah.
Right. We don't have tanks in the Air Force. We just focus on aircraft. So everybody else dabbles in it, right?
Yeah.
The Navy, this Marine Corps has aviation.
Yeah.
Right?
We do the dabbling.
So they all want to be Air Force deep down inside.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. It is one way to look at it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again?
I would, but I'd choose a different career field for sure. I'd make sure I get a guaranteed job.
Yeah.
I tell anyone they ask me, like, hey, Jimmy's going in the Air Force of the service. What would your advice be? Get a guaranteed job, get it signed on the dotted line. Don't take your chances with selection.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's true. And we all know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys go open general, get in the Army, they get 11 Bravo. I don't know, in the Marines, you get infantry, right?
It can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. I mean, that's, but I would just say, hey, man, I would probably be a contracting officer and just do 20 years, get out and make 6 figures from the day I jump out of the service.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a time here for words of wisdom, something that you might want to leave the listeners with.
Sure. It's important that we all understand the weight of this epidemic that we're dealing with in the veteran community. We should be, as a country, as outraged about the suicide epidemic that's running through our veteran community as much as we are as anything that's on CNN or Fox News. Yeah. As a country, we should be just appalled, and there should be no amount of resources that should be put towards it, because we're losing our heroes. That freedom that we all enjoy was paid for by those men and women. And now they come home to little resources, to a society that doesn't always understand what they're going through. We got to do a better job as a country to take care of our warfighters that we promised we would take care of. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a veteran, it's because I believe it. And I wish I could make 100 Warriors Hearts tomorrow and we could help everyone. That's just not reality. So I think that we need to really relook at how we do military veteran healthcare.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, man, thanks for coming on and doing this. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for letting everyone know, about Warrior's Heart?
It is.
Okay. I thought I said it backwards.
No, Warrior's Heart. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't forget to go warriorsheart.com. You can check us all out. We got a great social media team. So we have, clips that are not just super serious or we got some funny clips, this, that, and the other. Our social media and marketing team are the absolute best in the business. Just shout out to those guys because they're, it's not all doom and gloom. We want these guys to have purpose, and we want them to be able to say, hey, I want to go there because it looks cool.
Yeah. Say the website one more time.
warriorsheart.com.
warriorsheart.com.
And remember, we can recover.
Yeah, very good. Well, man, thanks for doing this. I truly appreciate it. I always end every podcast talking about veteran suicide. But, for all the listeners, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA has some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on the chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. I know Justin cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you served with. Ask them how they're doing. And if they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right, man. One last time, thanks. Appreciate it. To all the listeners, stay motivated. Change your socks.